welcome to another edition of the Music Warehouse podcast. Today we have, all the way from the Great White North, Jim Mills of Select Shows up there in Canada. Welcome, Jim. How is it up there? Cold? I hope not.
No, actually, it's very nice. We had an inch of snow last night, but it all melted already. So we should be having 8 or 10 inches by now, but it's been very nice.
I always have to quantify nice with Canada because they say it's nice and it's like 22 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. But
I know Tommy Coffin came up here to visit us one time and it was minus 40, probably 50 below with the windshield, and he jumped out of the car and ran into our shop. He wouldn't go outside and look at any of the equipment. He says, I'm not going out there.
He's lost all his Canadian blood, I think. It's thinned out down here.
I know.
In the South.
He's got soft.
Well, that's great. Well, Select Shows, you've been around, 50 some years, right, with the show? How'd you get started?
Well, it was my father originally in 1960. He was a motorcycle policeman for the city of Winnipeg for 20 plus years. And he had enough and he quit. And my mother was mad at him. What are you doing? And he says, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. And he met up with an old army buddy that he knew. And he had 3 little rides. And my dad was always good at fixing things and welding and painting and stuff. So this fella said, why don't you come and give me a hand, get ready before the season starts, getting my equipment ready. So he went out and he kind of liked it. And they said, well, how would you like to come and sell tickets? So, well, the next weekend, my dad was selling tickets. My mother was making candy floss. I was 6 years old, believe it or not. And I was running a little car ride. And my brother was running a little Ferris wheel that he had. And we finished out one season and some equipment became available from another little tiny outfit. It was $1,600 for a Ferris wheel, a swing ride, a little car ride, and an old candy floss machine and an army generator. And my dad went and bought it, and my mother was mad. She says, you dummy, you went and you quit a good job with a pension and spent all of our savings to buy these rides, and now what are we going to do? Well, we went out in 1969. We bought the equipment, and it was a centennial year in 1970, and we played a little gig at a local Legion, and my dad made $300 with those rides that day, and he says that's what I make a whole month as a policeman. So back then, that was a lot of money, and it just went from there.
That's incredible. That's incredible. It really takes a big leap of faith to do something like that, to go leave a job with all the security and pension, like you say, and all those things, and start out on your own. But that's also a good trait to have, I guess, when you're in this business, because you're going to certainly encounter some ups and downs over the years.
Well, you better believe it. You've got to be pretty resilient in this business. That's for sure.
Especially in Canada. Well, how long was your season then? Was it pretty short, or is it
we run 22 weeks. We start in mid-April, weather permitting. We normally will sit at a mall to open for at least 2 weeks. So if you get blown out one weekend, at least you got a chance for the second one, and gives you a chance to get things oiled up and get everything going. You know, we start off fairly small, and we keep adding every weekend and working towards our fair season.
So it's a lot like the United States. The spring is a little, you play some still dates and different things, and maybe a couple festivals here and there, and then you move into fair season.
Well, in the spring if the weather's good, we do very well. You know, people have been cooped up. They haven't been out. They haven't done nothing. They've been hiding in their houses trying to keep warm, and you get a nice weekend. I've gone out and had to bring my loader out with a bucket and push the snow off the lot that I rent, and start setting up, and there's big snow banks in the back, and it's cold, and the weekend comes along and it warms up and we're just packed.
Yeah, it's incredible. If you hit it just right, it can be really good. I'm sure you've been there where it snowed both weeks though too, and you didn't do much at all.
Well, we've set up and woke up, and last year we went to a town about an hour and a half west of Winnipeg, and we set up, and it was beautiful when we got there, and we set up, and in the morning we had a foot of snow. We were up on the bumper car was pushing the canvas down. We were shoveling the merry-go-round off. We had a foot of snow on the deck, and we figured, oh, we're finished. And later that afternoon, the sun came out. It started melting, and everybody came out. We had a really good day.
It's amazing. So when you got started, you had a couple rides where you were just playing like little, like Legion dates and sponsored dates and school dates and things like that. Was that the route back then?
We knew absolutely. When my dad started this, he knew absolutely nothing about the carnival business, or never even thought of it. And when he was selling those tickets that day, and he's seen all these quarters rolling in, and he says, "Hey, this is a good business." And he was never a carny or nothing like that. He was a policeman, and we kind of learned. And he used to go to other little shows that were around, and they used to make fun of him because he would take his tape measure with him, and he would go into one story I recall. A guy had a spill the milk game, and my dad was in there with his tape measure, and he was measuring the size of the table and the distance the pins were from the front of the game. And we went home, we built our own. That's the way
Very
it was.
nice. And then over the years, you just added you added a few rides here and there as you became more successful.
Yeah, we kept growing, into the 80s. My brother is involved too. He owns Canuck Amusements. And as we all owned rides with Select Shows, that the company my dad started. And, interesting story how he got the name Select Shows is he was looking for part-time work, and one of the jobs that he had was working for a fella who owned Select Transfer, and he was cleaning out a building, and he had a bunch of stickers that he had, and it said Select Transfer. My dad says, "What are you doing with those?" He says, "I'm throwing them out." He says, "Can I have them?" He says, "Certainly." So when he got home, he cut the transfer off, and that's when Select Shows started, because he got free decals for the doors of the trucks.
Oh my gosh. So it wasn't out of creativity. You just had some leftover stickers.
Yeah, that's how we got the name Select Shows. And then as the years went by, we'd buy a ride here or there. And the first ride I owned, I was 16 years old when I started investing, and I bought a Lupo plane from Jack Thompson out
of
that
Minnesota.
Ride. And I recall it was $10,000. And that's when the Canadian dollar was worth more than the American dollar. And I had $5,000 saved up, and I borrowed some from my grandmother, and my dad helped me to buy a truck for it. And that was the first ride I owned. And it went from there. As my brother became in the business, he would buy equipment. And then as time would go, we got too big. We all had interests. We all had rides, and we were cutting the pie into 3 pieces. So that's when Canuck Amusements was born. My brother went on his own, and my dad and I were together. And when my dad retired, we flipped a coin, and he had a list of equipment, and whoever called heads or tails got the first pick. And I picked the Rocco plane, and my brother got the Sizzler, and we take a generator or a truck, and that's how we divided everything up.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
And in the last few years, again, we got bigger and bigger, and then I run Select Shows, and my brother has Canuck Amusements, and then the pie again became too small, and his son ventured out into Alaska. He was playing some spots along the Canadian border, and they came along and asked, there was a state fair, asked him if he would be interested in coming to Alaska. He says, "I don't know how to cross the border." And they said, "We'll help you. We need another carnival out here." So
that wasn't that long ago. It used to be just Golden Wheel Amusement. I remember that.
Yeah, no, it's my nephew has A1 Amusements up there.
A1 Amusements.
And he likes it up there. He's living kind of off the grid, and everybody there is different. He loves it. The kids all play hockey. He's involved in hockey in the winter, and he's coaching. And it's more relaxed. There's no keeping up with the Joneses. The kids go to school, they're wearing camo. They're not worried about fashion or anything like that. And he loves it there. He said he'll never come back to Canada.
So he left and went to the U.S. That's amazing. And
Yeah,
so
so
then he's related to you too. So
yeah,
everybody's
that's my
related to you.
nephew. Yeah, that's my nephew. So it's a family operation. Myself, I have my two sons and my daughter and their spouses, and they're all involved. My brother-in-law is out here. Everything is family owned. If we have a thing, if it doesn't say Mills on the registration, then it's not on our lot. That's we keep everything. My youngest boy, he's just 38 years old, but he owns. He's got a pizza trailer and corn dogs and lemonade, and he's got fries. And everybody works on the equipment. He moves the ring. He's a welder. We all work. The rides are the most important thing here, and we all, the whole family pitches in, but they all have their niche. My eldest boy owns all the games, and my daughter, she's got a funnel cake trailer, a bulldozer, a trampoline, and she manages my candy floss.
Wow. And as far as the help goes, do you usually use just Canadian people, or do you
Well, we always were very lucky. I know other shows around here always used to hear, how do they do it? Where do they get their help from? Well, I got family here, and without them, I'd be in big trouble. And they love the business probably more than I do now, as I'm getting a little bit older. But we were doing very well with staff until the pandemic. When that came, the game changed, and people became lazy. They didn't want to work anymore, and they were getting all kinds of government assistance. And after the pandemic was over, that carried on, and we've been going since the pandemic was ended, and we've been doing okay. But this year we've applied, and we're going to be bringing in 10 foreign workers, because it's getting really tough here to find anybody. Not only in our business, I have friends in the trucking industry, I have friends in the auto body industry, and nobody can get anybody to work. We got a real problem here.
And how does it work in Canada? In the United States, it's quite the program. It's a little bit luck of the draw. They're trying to change it now, but is it tough to get foreign workers in Canada?
Well, you know what? This is my first kick at the cat. I'm bringing in 10 foreign workers from Mexico, and and I've been asking around different other carnival owners in Canada, and and there's another one in Winnipeg here, and who brings Jamaican help in, and basically they all told me if it wasn't for foreign labor, we're done, because we put an ad in the paper. We go on Marketplace. We do Kijiji, which is a place where you want to buy and sell or look for help. We go to the government and put ads out looking for help. And you may get 16-year-old girls apply, and that's it. And they're not going to move rides. They're not going to move trucks. So we have a lot of guys in here for 25 or 30 years that have started right in the beginning with us when I started, and thank God for those guys. But
really?
As they're getting older, it's getting pretty tough on them. When you have to go set up the orbiter, that's done, and then go over and do the ring of fire, and when that's done, go jump. You guys split up and go do the scrambler. Where in the good old perfect world, one guy or two guys were in charge of one big ride, and they set it up and they washed it and they cleaned it. Well, they still got to do that plus do more, and then jump in the truck and drive. So we've had to hire a lot of independent drivers, a lot of retired guys come out and move our show for us, because it seems like young people today don't even have a driver's license, never mind drive a standard.
Yeah, that can be a real tough thing. How big are your jumps? Are they mostly? Do you stay pretty tight? Or are you?
I have a few big ones up to Thompson, Manitoba is like 500 and some odd miles. And then we go all the way to the Canadian Lakehead Exhibition in Thunder Bay. That's 500 miles from Winnipeg. And I move on 35 trucks. So everybody in my family has their Class 1 license. My wife drives the office, I drive. And, a lot of times it's not bad if we're close, we double back. But a lot of times that's not an option. So we bring in we have a van, and like every other carnival, you have a whole pile of drivers that are retired, and they just come out and drive. and they take the van home, and on Sunday night they come back and you stick them in a hotel room, and Monday they move you to the next location.
Yeah, well, it's amazing you're operating without foreign labor. I mean, in the U.S., I think I don't know if there's anybody anymore that's operating without foreign labor.
I was concerned. Right now the liberal government is in a little bit of trouble, and the conservatives are taking over, and they're talking about, we're going to put Canadians back to work, and our business is unique, just like the market gardeners or the farmers. We're not taking jobs away from anybody that's going to be, you get a job at the local restaurant, well, you're going to end up buying a house, or you're going to be getting an apartment, and there's a shortage of all those. We're housing our own staff, and it's seasonal. It's only for the summer, and they go home. It's, not a lot of people want to do this type of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's an extra layer to it. It's not just finding somebody; it's finding somebody who wants to travel too. So,
well, you know what? There was a time when you'd hire somebody and they just didn't even ask how much you were going to pay them. They just did it for the thrill of it, and they loved it, and it was a challenge. And I remember I bought a skydiver one time, and I was not going to move it to play Dauphin, Manitoba, and we were heading for Weyburn, and it was a overnighter. And I said, no, you know what? I'm not going to push it that hard. I don't really need it there. And the guys, oh, please, let us. We want to up for the challenge. I says, all right. And I says, if you guys do it, if you make it, you get it there, get it set up properly, then you have the next day off, and I'll give you all the guys a $200 cash right in the hand. And they did it, and boy, they were tired. And my brother ended up running the ride for the first part of the day and let those guys sleep, and I was up there helping them. And but you don't get people like that anymore.
No. With your fares, does it work like they do out west? Do they kind of grade the routes like ABC fares?
Yeah, we have pretty well all the Manitoba B circuit, which the C circuit is probably where we started, and there was one other small show that was playing a lot of those smaller dates. Well, he pulled a pin a few years ago, and we bought a few things off of him, but he had mostly all of our old stuff. But there's really nobody coming up, and we do the B circuit, and I guess our best fare would probably be Thunder Bay. And
yeah, I've heard of that one.
The Canadian Lakehead Exhibition, that was a Conklin spot, and it was it was too far when Name took over to jump all the way to Toronto, 1,000 miles in a short period of time. So that kind of fell in our laps. I'd already been booked in there with Conklin for about 15 years plus, with 15 rides. So I was a big part of that. And when Name took over, they didn't feel they needed any help, and it was a little tough on them. So that spot fell right in my lap, and I didn't feel I was ready at the time. I didn't have the equipment that Conklin was moving. I didn't have the twin flip and the Music Expresses and all that big stuff that they had. But other people in the industry told me, go there. You got a real nice, clean show. Put some flowers out, put some benches, theme it. And ever since I started playing Thunder Bay, we call it the family fair. We kind of tuned it down a little bit. It was one of those big, rough, tough fighting carnivals. And we changed all that. We put up more light towers and more family friendly. And nobody has ever said, boy, we sure miss Conklin shows or anything like that. So we're quite proud that we're doing the job there.
That's great. Have the grosses held up too, or is it?
Yeah, you know what? We're doing exactly what every year it gets a little better and better, and we get a little bit bigger and bigger. And the first time I started playing Thunder Bay, I was looking at the marks on the ground, and I seen Zucchini's Fun Houses, and I walk them out, and holy man, those things are big.
120 foot or something.
Yeah, they were huge. Well, we're way past there. Actually, those marks are still sitting on the ground. I can still find them. Some of the stuff, that they had the big G-force there and the crazy flip and all that. I see all those marks, and we're way past that. But we don't have the equipment that they were moving years ago. the big multi-trailer rides. We're more of a standard type of carnival. And, they still talk about the old days when Ray Kamek shows us up here and, but things have changed. And Thomas, they always ask, where's the double Ferris wheel that Thomas used to bring here? We missed the double Ferris wheel.
People do mention that. For some reason, that's like the most mentioned ride. But then you put one up once in a while and it doesn't make any money. And they say, where are these people that are asking for it?
And the zipper, last year everybody, are you bringing a zipper? Are you bringing a zipper? Well, my brother has the zipper and we play that spot together. We come together for the bigger spots. And we've always got to the point now where we're too big. We have too many rides for that spot. So my brother's son-in-law, he's, picking up some smaller spots just to keep the equipment moving. But, there's a lot of equipment sitting in the yard that we alternate back and forth that, we're too big for a lot of the spots and too small for some of them.
I was going to ask that before. So you and your brother do get together for a spot?
Yeah. We get together half a dozen times a year for the bigger fairs. And some of them we started together years ago when Ray Kamek shows wasn't coming up here and there was Wagner shows. They closed one unit and Thomas, he wasn't coming back and West Coast was jumbling around spots and he took the better spots and there was some that were left with not much. So we took a run at the Manitoba B circuit and we got the whole thing and we've been just going from there.
Did the circuit still like all bid together and how often do you have to put in a proposal?
There used to be the Western Canadian Fairs Association where we go to a convention in November and we would bid for all the fairs and got to the point where it was only the Hauser family and my family and you got the West, we got the central part of Canada. What are we jumping back and forth for? So everybody kind of fell into place and that was it. We don't compete with anybody. We have there's one other show, Wonder Shows here. We don't fight over spots. There's not enough of us to fight. And what are we fighting over for? Nobody's going to win the bidding war except the committees.
That's right.
It's got enough expenses there without creating that kind of problems amongst each other.
Yeah, I was kind of, I just read you can't kind of mention Canada without mentioning Conklin because he was such a big force there for so long. But I was reading a book that just came out about him and learning about the circuits and the bidding. And I was thinking, how do they bid every year? Because every year you could lose whatever you had, whatever route you were on, it could be gone the next year. I was like, that is a crazy way to operate, and then he started the multi-year contracts and all that stuff and changed it. But wow, that must have been.
It was pretty exciting back in those days. You never knew. I remember we played Prince Albert, Saskatchewan with Conklin shows for years, and it went up for bid, and we lost it. I worked along with Alfie Phillips, who was my mentor.
Oh, really?
Probably the nicest guy best guy I ever dealt with in my entire life in this business, and I learned a lot from him, everything I could. And
now that's the son, right? The father was like an Olympic diver or something.
Yeah, he was a diver back in during the CNE with Patty Conklin and all those days. And I used to follow Alfie around, and he taught me how to lay out the lot, and I would help him with it. And he was a great guy. And he says, "What do you think we should do? There's a chance we're going to lose Prince Albert. Let's give him an offer, and we'll pave the lot." We'll put asphalt runways in for like a long-term contract. So I said, sure, let's do this. And we didn't get it. West Coast got the spot and well-deserved. So I said, now what are we going to do? And my dad always used to say to me, and I used to hate him for it. He used to say, when something happens, it's for your betterment. And I said, how can this be better, Dad? We just lost our biggest spot. Well, if we didn't, we wouldn't have been able to pick up the Manitoba B circuit. That would have thrown a wrench into the whole thing. So everything fell right into place after that.
Well, there you go. You were just talking about Alfie Phillips and the paving. That was a big thing with Conklin. At least in the book, Patty Conklin started paving these lots. He started, with the C&E in different places, but that was, at least they claim that he was the first one to kind of do that with a lot of these committees and get long-term contracts back in return. And that really kind of changed the business a bit. So, but it's funny to hear, or it's interesting to hear you talking about, Alfie Phillips talking about doing it, fairly recently.
Well, you know what? Things have changed back then. When I grew up, booked on with Conklin shows, they had rides. I would stand back and look and, oh my God, the size of these things and the way they operated and the way they could move. I remember Alfie apologized to me in Thunder Bay when he says, Jim, I kind of made a mistake. I booked your yo-yo and I put it right beside the wave swinger. Well, when we were tearing it down, we were driving away, and those guys still had hours left on that wave swinger, and they were laughing at us. We're a smaller show booked on, and see you later. And I says, yeah, we're done. We're going to get something to eat and go to bed. You guys are going to be here all night. Don't laugh at us. We're just a small show. This is where we all started at one time.
And all those painted panels and taking care of it.
It was, and when we just were part of it, and we loved being part of it. My brother used to put rides into Saskatoon, and I would do Thunder Bay, and then things changed, and that all ended, and we ended up with Thunder Bay on our own.
Yeah, it seems like you had Conklin who had the big rides, but then he would work with all the local. It seemed like everybody worked together. He would work with all the local carnivals.
It was a smart thing. It
really was, yeah.
Conklin didn't get where they were for being stupid. I used to go in and pay a percentage, and they would pay the committee a percentage. Well, they don't worry about drivers. They don't worry about nothing. And they put on a nice show. We used to do Brandon. I had 15 rides. Bobby Hauser put in 15 rides, and I think they had the Euro slide on the office. That was it. And we did that for years. So they did it that way, and the Conklin name was a powerful name, and but the people, they don't know who's who. They just go to see what rides are there. Yeah,
and I think vice versa. He would sometimes send rides to some of the smaller shows to supplement them. Kind of wash each other's hands in a way.
Yeah, well, it all worked out good when you need extra equipment. Out here, we don't have that. I don't have any competition for 1,000 miles either way here. Toronto, that's why Thunder Bay was kind of good for us, but they had their back against the wall. If it wasn't for us, there's nobody that would play it. Nobody's going to come from Toronto over 1,000 miles to play Thunder Bay and then go right back. And nobody from the West is going to come 2,000 miles. So we were the biggest at the time, and it was either us or nobody. But I certainly didn't want to play a fair with that attitude that if you don't like it, lump it. This is what we are, and we've been striving and working hard and buying equipment and keep the fair active. We don't want to just sit on our hands and fall to the wayside.
Yeah, it's interesting. So when you got started, or when you were coming up and stuff, compared to now, are there more Canadian shows or less, or are they bigger or smaller?
Oh, there's a lot less. In Winnipeg, there used to be 6 of them. Midwest Shows was around way before us, and then there was Maple Leaf Amusements, and there was another.
I remember that one, yeah. They came into the U.S. I think they played Michigan some.
No. They all stayed in Canada, and then
was it a different
right now there's only myself, Canuck Amusements, and Wonder Shows, and we all have our areas. If you take a spot from me, that's okay. I'll have yours because they're all pretty well equivalent. So
it's a zero-sum game. If you gain one, you lose one, I guess.
Our next move is Winnipeg. We got to get it from them, and I can't see that happening too soon. Although we did after the pandemic, they started opening up things, and Alberta was getting some rides. I know they played Calgary, and they had to quarantine foreign labor and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I got a call from the Red River X in Winnipeg, and they said, there's a chance that we're going to open, but name is not going to have time to come to Winnipeg. Would you be interested? I said, oh, darn rights I would.
No,
double vaccinated event. So my brother and I, we went and met with the CEO there, and we had 45 rides, 48 rides, something like that, and all the games and the food. We got quite a bit of stuff. So we played the Red River X, but not in June. We played it in August. Oh. And everything we lost the year before sitting and doing nothing, we got it all back in those 10 days. That was the biggest fair we've ever played. And it was quite a thrill to be able to do that. But we spread out and we filled the area. And I don't think our gross was too far off of what Name does today. So that could tell you how well we did.
Does the A circuit like that still go out for bid? Do they still bid that once in a while, or? Yeah.
Well, there's no I don't know what would ever happen if Name didn't come up here. I think there'd be a huge change in we're not big enough to do Winnipeg or Calgary or anything like that. Maybe we could some of us could join forces, but then what happens to all the fairs you've been playing for 30 years? Yeah. I just don't want to dump them. I play some spots in Ontario. I've been going there for 30 plus years that, they're the ones that phoned during the pandemic. And are you guys going to be okay? Geez, we think of you guys all the time. We can't imagine a fair without you guys. We're the only game in town, and we've established some really good relationships with all these places that we've been going to.
Yeah, I was thinking back to when there was still this Central Canada exhibition in Ottawa, and Amusements of America used to come up for a long time, but they used to book Beauce Carnival, and then I can't think of the name of the other guy.
Campbell
Amusements, that's right. Campbell, right?
Yeah, Dan Campbell, really nice guy.
He's still in business too?
Oh yeah. I talk to him from time to time, and in fact, I talked to him about foreign labor and how it's working for him before I jumped into the pool, and he said that they're fantastic, and that's all I talk to everybody in the business that has foreign labor, because I'm always a little bit skeptical if you rely on all the foreign labor. I'm just bringing 10. I normally carry 45 to 50 people. I just need 10 good workers to help the guys that I have along, where, to take some of the heat off of them. Mm-hmm. And, you work probably after the first year, I'll want 15 or 20, it just depends what we can get. I'm not turning my back on my Canadian help. They've been here all the time, but it's just the shortage. The part that gets me the worst is you get people come out and work the weekend, they'll run a ride or they'll work in the games, and then Sunday we're going to ready to tear down. Oh, we're going home now. We don't want to do that. I'm going to break a nail or get my hair dirty or something. So there we are, stuck again, shorthanded, haircutting everything down, and and to alleviate some of that from my regular guys. Well, guys that drive, that we don't double back anymore. I hire extra drivers because I don't want to push my guys so hard that they're going to hate this. I want to come out. I want to, it used to be a lot more fun than it is today. It's a lot more work. And I'm trying to bring that fun back into it by giving the guys a bit of a break here and not making it so hard on everybody.
Yeah, quality of life's a big thing. I think that's what a lot of show owners kind of forget. Not a lot, but some forget. They work them. Some of these shows in the U.S. they work year round and they never stop. So it's tough.
I couldn't imagine doing that. And you know what? I guess if you're geared up for it, I work 22 weeks. I always think, near the end, the guys are burnt out. They're tired. I'm tired. I don't want to see their faces again. They don't want to see mine. And you kind of put up with them to the end. And okay, goodbye. See you later. See you next year. And you're so happy. You're free. And my friends always say, okay, your 22-week sentence is over. Now you're free. Because, we're there 24/7. And but you know what? Not much time goes by, a week or two off the road. I kind of miss these guys. They're part of their family. You get up in the morning and you have a coffee with them and you're joking around. Well, it all changes in the winter. It's back in the shop and start fixing everything.
I used to work at a seaside resort when I was in college and the locals would go, "Oh, I can't stand the tourists. I can't wait till the tourists leave, blah, blah, blah. And then I worked a couple weeks into the winter, into September, whatever. And I'd maybe go visit in October. They go, oh, I can't wait for summer to come. They missed them again. It sounds very similar to what you're saying.
Well, it's the same thing. So, you know what? I had an idea. I says, you know what? I should put a 3 or 4 spots at the end of the season that don't exist and say, hey, we're going for, another month. And then 3 weeks before it's like, I'm just fooling you, because then they'll be on their game right to the bitter end. But you know what? I have friends that are in the construction business and, doing stucco and stuff like that. And they have the same problem. They're guys, they know the end is coming. A lot of them get a little bit nervous. You know what? It's been pretty good. They get a good paycheck every week. They got a place to live. They get a uniform. They got showers. All they have to worry about is their cell phones. And now all of a sudden, now what do I do? Where do I go? A lot of them still live at home. Some of them, will find jobs for the winter. But you know what? I can see where they could get a little depressed, that this is their comfort zone is now over.
Their routine, yeah, going back and forth. So with I forgot to ask, but Campbell shows, so they don't really overlap with your territory much in Ontario.
No, nobody. My brother goes all the way to New Liskeard, which is on the Quebec border, and that's quite a lot further than Thunder Bay, and nobody comes out even that far. There's so great of a population in the Greater Toronto area, and there's so many fairs. Out here, it's like you drive for a day and you don't see a town worthwhile that you can set up, and they're too small. I go to Toronto. I was out last year to see all the guys out there, the Jamesons and all. And, you drive and you go through a suburb, 500,000, 300,000, 200,000. In Manitoba, 1,500, 2,000, 5,000. Jeez. Then you hit the spots that we play, 15,000, 10,000 people. The population out here in Manitoba is very sparse.
Yeah, it's in the U.S. though. Towns that size are really hard pressed to find a carnival. So I guess they're lucky in Canada that there are so many shows.
Well, you know what? I get calls on a weekly basis from fairs that my dad used to play and I used to play when I first started. And you feel bad for them. We're trying to get the fair going again, and no, I'm sorry. We've tried it. They feel bad and send them 8 rides or something like that. Send us anything, and then when you're there, is that all you got? You should bring more. No, sorry, that's too much. Thanks for bringing it to my attention, but I didn't make any money here, so I'm not coming back. And it's unfortunate, and it's just the way the business is going to settle in. There'll be big fairs. I always compare our business to the farmers. And we used to look forward to the end of June when school is out, and we would leave the city and we would hit to the farming communities and play the fairs, and then we would hire a crew. We would get farm kids who were finished seeding. They had nothing to do. They could drive a truck. They knew how to work. Well, there is no more of those. They're gone. The farmers now are no family farms. It's big corporations where they have a half a dozen combines or more. They're running tens of thousands of acres. It's big business now. So you know what? That's how everything has changed, and it'll never be the same again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they used to really serve. I mean, it's a big deal to have those events, though. When you go into those little cities that really have nothing the whole year, it's a big deal, right?
You know what? In the United States, every chance I get, I go to the carnival. If somebody says, I want to go to Mexico, no, I want to go to Gibtown, and I want to go see straight shows, and I want to go to carnivals. That's all that really interests me. And you go to a small fair. One year, my wife and I, we traveled to every little fair. We've seen Bell City, and we've seen other shows that were around that area. We drove every day to see. It's a total different world in the United States where everybody's involved. I went over to Roseau, Minnesota one year, and the town that's where the Polaris snowmobile plant is, and the whole place was closed down. You couldn't buy any gas in town. Every business had a sign, "We're at the fair," and you went to the fair. Man, that's just a small town. Everybody was at the fair. The Legion, Kinsman, they all had booths that was unbelievable from what's here. It's basically us and a cattle show and a bit of entertainment. It's not what it is in the U.S.
Huh.
The small county fairs they're not even comparison to what we deal with.
They're a real celebration of community. Everybody participates. You're saying in the U.S.
Yeah, and you know what? The times are changing. A lot of these, the places, the people are different. They, they can jump in the car and go anywhere they want. They can,
It's true.
We play some big street festivals here in Winnipeg, and they're good. But you know what? You're adding the expenses of security is a big deal now. I have night security every night, 7 days a week. I have a company that comes in and patrols a lot. We've had wires stolen from us. Well, actually in Brandon, Manitoba, we were tearing down, and one of the fellows walks by and says, "Hey, what goes in that big like a construction box by the candy floss trailer?" And it was close to the front gate, and I says, "Well, that's the lead cord and everything for the floss." I went over there, the door's open, somebody picked it up and carried it out the gate, and that's a big heavy cord. And they caught another guy wrapping up a cord ready to steal off of a kiddie ride, but it was attached to the ride, but he was coiling it up, and we chased them off. So now we got security to keep people out from stealing our cable, because I know what they want to do. They want to sell it and buy drugs is exactly what's going on. So every weekend it's full security, every night, 24 hours. During the day when we're there, it's not bad, but every night security comes in at 11 o'clock till 7 in the morning, and then they wake us up and we get up and do what we got to do. But change.
Now, are you experiencing the problem
budgeted for security like that?
Yeah, that's a big expense. Are you experiencing the problems like that we are in the U.S. with kids rioting and things at night, or causing problems at some of the events? That's a big deal here. But
yeah, you know what? They don't riot. They and it's funny when you see them and they're all standing around and they're drinking, and now legalized marijuana here. They figure just because it's legal, you can smoke dope all the time. That's all you smell when you walk down the Midway is the dope. Yeah. They're standing in line, and when there's thousands of them, what are you going to do? The security tries to stop it. It can't. And then all of a sudden a fight will break out. I don't ever remember a fight with us. It's always they fight amongst themselves, then the police come, and then we have to get more security and take away from the bottom line by combating this kind of thing. But it's just what it is now. You either got to pay up or out.
I gotcha. So with your purchases now, have you purchased a lot of stuff in the last several years? You're moving to some of these bigger.
Well, just prior to we did a bit of a growth. You know what? We don't buy anything brand new because our dollar is so bad. It's dollar is 40 cents on the dollar now. So you're gonna I remember I bought a C-Ray and it was $105,000. I bought it from Tommy, and when I went to pay for it, $195. I says, that's a big exchange, and then bring the thing home and tear it all apart and rebuild it. Like, so $100,000 ride just turned into a $300,000 ride. So when you buy a $300,000 ride, it's a $600,000 ride. So we're at a disadvantage to that. So we always buy stuff that probably needs a little bit of work. And just the year before the pandemic hit, we bought an Orbiter, and we went down to Gurin shows. They had a trailer mounted scrambler, one of those ones on the 28-foot pup. We grabbed up that, and we grabbed the Castlemania, and we bought a few other rides. We actually added $1 million in our money here in that 1 year prior to the pandemic, and we upgraded a bunch of trucks and everything like that, and we worked on all that equipment and never went out that 1 year. So we added 3 new rides, but even so, after you go out with 3 new rides, after that next year, somebody says, "So what I got new this year?" Well, you know what? You go to a fair and they ask, "What do you got new?" And I say, "Well, nothing, but we did hang on to all the rides that we do have. What do you got new?" "Oh, we painted the bleacher." So that's what Alfie Phillips used to always say. What have you got new this year? Nothing, but we did manage to keep everything that we have. So,
yeah, another way to solve the problem is to play some spots closer to the border and only take U.S. money. I did a music festival one time in Toronto. It hasn't been that long ago. And we had Bo's Carnival brought a few rides in. And I was walking with Charles Eric, and his ticket seller had to go to the bathroom. And we went and sold tickets for a few minutes. And I was like, I think I can make you like 30% more. So watch this. And the next guy would come up and said, I'm sorry, we only take American. And like almost everyone would go, oh, okay. Like I wasn't saying the craziest thing in the world. And they'd pull out American money and give it to me. I was like, this is great. He's like, why are you doing that? I said, well, I'm making you more money. What are you talking about?
Well, you know what? We play Emo, Ontario, which is probably our longest spot. It's right by Fort Frances International Falls. And we're only minutes from the border. And we get an awful lot of American money. And people say, what's the exchange on it? And one out of 100 will ask. Otherwise, here, we get a lot of American money. But that's getting short too, because now how the business has changed.
Debit cards,
we run these ATM machines. We've got handhelds, and I laugh when somebody's playing the balloon store and they break a balloon and they want to play again. And here's my card, and they tap another $5 and another $5, and they're all tapping. Nobody's got any money, and everybody says, "Hey, you're in a great business, man. It's all cash." No, I don't think we have 10% cash anymore. And
is that right? It's down that low in Canada. Well, Canada's been ahead of the U.S. for years.
Credit cards. It's
Canada's been ahead of the U.S. for years like that. I went up, I think, for a meeting in Toronto one time. It's probably been 5, 6, 7 years ago. But you guys had those little the waitress at the restaurant would bring the credit card reader right to your table. And I never even saw one in the U.S. Maybe it's been 10 years, but I never even saw one in the U.S. before that. And all the Canadian restaurants had that. And I'm starting to see them now almost in the U.S., but you guys have always been.
We have them now in every game, every food stand. My son says he was the last one to join up. He says, I do not need that in the food trailer. It's slow enough in there with people, And I says, oh, you're making a big mistake. And I says, I'm going to go in there and work in the pizza. And, here's all your pizza sitting on the warmers, ready to go, nice and fresh. And it's the people. They come up and they say, what kind of pizza do you have? What kind of drinks do you have? It's right there in the sign. And they just honey, did you want a Pepsi or Diet Pepsi? Like the people are so slow. And now they give you they give you the credit card. Now, you got to run it through. And if it doesn't go, you got to do it again. And you want your receipt. But, it slows things up. But the people slow things up. We try to make things as quick as possible. The tickets boxes have signs way up high so that you can see as you're standing in line, and the people will come to the window and say, how much are your wristbands? Well, we do Thunder Bay, which is mostly is huge in the pre-sales for wristbands. And, in Thunder Bay, you can buy a wristband for $35. And or you can, or pardon me, the $30 or $35 or a little bit more on site. Those wristbands only last from noon till 6 and 6 to 12. So there's 2 wristbands a day, and we see that where all of a sudden it's 11:45, and they're lined up down the street, over the bridge, all the way to the mall. So I'm out there, my sons are out there, my brother comes running out, and we put aprons on. And we've got all the wristbands. As people feel like they're being accosted as soon as they come to the gate. We're there. Hey, you got a coupon here. We can wristband you here. We don't want people standing in line to spend their money. Get them their wristband and get them out of here. Go stand in line and over at the zipper.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the way it works. And they often said, hey, maybe we should go with one wristband. Why? We're in the middle of nowhere. The costs are astronomical up here, and it works, and the people are used to it. And I'm giving wristbands, and on day 5 of the 5-day fair, I'm putting the 10th wristband on. The people, they come from the remote communities. They fly them in from different communities, and they buy them 2 wristbands a day, $70 a day, whatever it is, and times 5. And everybody's running 5 wristbands by the end. They collect them like a trophy.
Right, so right. They keep them on. How does it work?
There's no other fair. They're not going anywhere else. That's it. They fly them into Thunder Bay. I forget how many millions that they did a study a few years ago, and it brings millions into Thunder Bay. you can't get a hotel room for miles around because they're all, and the airlines are involved in the fair because this is it. This is the only fair from here to 500 miles either direction.
How does it work with the changeover though on the wristbands? That's what a lot of people get nervous about. Is like,
well, we just run different colors. We run different colors, and
yeah, but I mean, if it's like 4:30 and I come, what do I do?
Well, if you buy a wristband, if you're, you made a mistake, you know what? In the day, we might get 3 people say, you know what? We just came at 5 o'clock. We stopped selling wristbands 1 hour before. So if you want to come at the last minute and use your coupon on a pre-sale, go ahead. It's your problem. But you know what? We won't sell you one for 1 hour before the change. The same as at 11 o'clock, wristband sales stop. Normally at 11 o'clock, things start to slow down. So that's the only chance they have. They got off of work and they come to the fair and they buy a wristband and they only can ride for an hour. Well, $30, you're going to get your money's worth for sure because you're not staying in a big lineup. But that's, we maybe in a big day we might get 2 people that say, I only rode for 2 hours. Well, here's another wristband. Don't tell everybody that because it'll all line up next year. But you know what? For the minimal confusion, it's not a big deal at all.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not a lot. When you hear people express concerns about the split wristband, that's usually what it is like the changeover times and how that works and with the people and the different colors and your ride guys have to stop people and all that stuff.
Yeah. And you know what, you got to sit the guys down in the morning and somebody will go around and with the new wristband and give them a reminder, go by and point to their wrist and have a wristband. Okay. Now it's a yellow one. Blue is no good. Okay. And I'm sure a few sneak through the cracks, but we deal with masses. We don't deal with an individual. Yeah. I believe that
if they're already in line, do you let them on after the time, or is the time, like if they're in line and it's turned 6 o'clock, do they have to get out of line? All those.
Yeah, use your discretion a little bit. And normally the first little bit where, the family's out there kind of patrolling the midway, and if somebody's got a problem, they call you over and say, this guy's been standing in line here for an hour and now he's just about to get on a ring of fire and the wristband is over. Oh, come on, throw him on. You know what I mean? Like we give them a little bit of discretion there, but
some grace.
The people are so used to that. That was from Conklin days that they accept it. They'll stand in line at 11:45 and they know darn well we close at 12 and there's still 200 people in line to get on a ride, and all of a sudden the guy turns the lights out and they all leave. No, what are you going to do? Run all night? No, it's over. So we're closed. Like Walmart, we're closed. Get out. It's that's the way.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, it's nice you got so much family to do the customer service operation. If you don't have that, it can be a little difficult.
Yeah, and everybody in my family has kind of found their niche. My daughter, we refer to as Beth Dutton. She does a lot of that. She's very good at that. With any beefs or anything like that, she's good at that. We send her out. A woman always has a better chance than a guy.
Beth Dutton, that's guy. Just
that's what we call her, Beth Dutton. Well, in fact, there was one. She was having a problem with one of the workers one time, and she says, I'm taking them to the train station. I says, no, you're letting them go. You're not taking them to the train station. He says, I've had enough of him.
Do I shoot him first or after?
Yeah, no. There is no train station where we are.
That's great. So as far as the Canadian and the show goes, is the future bright up there in Canada? Things looking good?
Yeah, you know what?
Kids are going to be in good
everybody
shape?
says to me, I'm 63 years old. Jim, when are you retiring? I says, why? What am I going to do? The pandemic was a real eye opener for our entire family. My sons bought 2 new campers and they were excited to use them, and they never got the chance. And during the pandemic, I says, listen, there's no sense us coming here to the shop moping every day. So they took their campers and they put them out at a campsite with some friends and did their social distancing and all that, and said, let's do what normal people do. And we're always wondering, we're missing out in the summers. So at the end of it all, everybody said, so how did you like your year off? Oh, it was great, but I'll never want to do it again. If I'm going to go camping, I want to be camping on the Midway, where I'm also making a living. And as far as retirement, they're going to take me out in the pine box, because I'm not going to come home. I did my grass cutting for one summer, and I did buy a boat, and my wife and I, we went fishing, and we tried that, and it was fun, but no, never again. I sold the boat. She says, why are you selling us? We're never going to do this again. Our family's out on the road. That's where we are.
Well, I think that's the thing, and I've thought about that ever since I've been in the business. Is it's more than a job. I mean, people have jobs. It's a means to make money and raise your family and do things like that, and that's great. But when you're done, a lot of people can just walk away and do the thing. With the carnival or something like that, you're there with your family. It's more than a job. It's a vocation. It's who you are to a certain extent.
It's all that,
it goes beyond it.
I don't know any old carnival guys that, with the exception of a few, who ever say, okay, I'm done, I'm retiring, I'm going to go fishing now, or I'm going to whatever. They're stubborn.
Danny Dell, I think of. He's one of the only guys I think of that does it. Danny Dell and Travers show. He just retired.
Yeah, you know what? I know Bob Hauser. He retired. It was tough. It took him a few years, and you still want to be there, but if you're going to do it, you got to make a clean cut, because you can't. The kids take over or whatever. You just got to just go there if they need you to help a little bit. But I'm still I'm the guy who orders parts now, and I'm the guy who runs for stuff, and I'm the guy who does podcasts and stuff like that while they're out there sandblasting, painting, and working in the shop. But my favorite part of the business is working in the shop. I love rebuilding rides and working on stuff, and I deal with the public because I have to, but I would rather do what I do. That's the most enjoyable part of the business. And even it really got to us when we were shut down during the pandemic for that 1 year. Like, we didn't know what the future was going to hold. Maybe hold off on putting all new lighting on a ride, or let's not rebuild that. Anything we do, let's use stuff that we have here. We've got some steel here. We don't just go order another load of steel. Let's use up what we have, or we'll try to be as tight with our money as we can. And then when we finish to a certain point where we had nothing more to really do and we're getting bored, I says, well, now I don't like every week taking money out of the bank to live on. I says, we're going to build ice fishing shacks. So I went and ordered a bunch of lumber, and I designed them because I'm an ice fisherman. I like ice fishing, and there seemed to be a real demand for ice fishing shacks. So my shop turned into a manufacturing plant, and we were building 8x16 ice fishing shacks. And we were building the wood stoves. We were putting the windows in. I built some for custom jobs for people that were teaching people how to ice fish. And we had to put bathrooms in some of them. And so we built a dozen ice fishing shacks during the winter. And then the next thing you know, I got people coming in, hey, I need a bumper on the back of my RV so I can put a hitch on. Oh, we do that. Then I got farmers coming here. Hey, we need some sandblasting done. I want to paint a tractor. Then we got the two local snowmobile clubs. We need our groomers rebuilt. So they came in, we sandblasted them and re-welded them and put new hydraulic lines and did everything. So we would have no problem making a living here, but it sure wasn't the same.
No, and, I hear that story, and it's really makes you proud. Not just even carnival guys, yes, but also manufacturers and suppliers that really pivoted during the pandemic and did so many things to make a living and do so well. It's really a great thing.
You have to do
Jim,
what you got to do.
I appreciate your time. Believe it or not, we've been talking for an hour here about Canada and select shows and all those things. And
well, that was fun.
Tommy was right. You're going to be an interesting guy to talk to. I really appreciate you.
Well, Tommy would know. He phoned me this morning at 6:45. Oh, you're up already? Did I wake you up? I said, don't
He
you
said
know
it'd
what
be a
time
great
it is,
interview.
Tommy? I don't get up till 7. It's 1:45. He calls me every morning. Good morning. Time to get up.
He's a good guy.
Wakey, wakey.
I appreciate you coming on so much. And if you're in Gibtown, I hope you're there. I'll get to see you.
I'll be in Gibtown
In person. Thank you so much for coming
on.
Meet
you then.
Have a great winter. Stay warm in Florida and Canada.
Thank you. It was fun doing this. Tommy said it would be fun. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You bet.